What if a millionaire CEO's greatest challenge wasn't his empire, but the chaos of his own twins? What if the real solution, a profound breakthrough, arrived with the most unexpected nanny? This is a story about a kind of wealth money simply can't purchase. Welcome to Millionaire Breakthrough, where we explore the incredible, authentic journeys of individuals who found success, not just in their bank accounts, but in their lives. Today, we're diving into the world of Ryan Blake, a high-flying CEO who had it all, except for peace at home. His two young boys, Max and Leo, were a whirlwind of chaos, driving away every nanny in a week. Ryan was drowning in work, using it as a shield from a painful past. But then, a truly quirky and authentic person stepped into their mansion, shaking up everything they knew. This is a story of overcoming grief, finding joy, and building an unexpected family where love truly conquered all. Here's something you don't often hear about the millionaire life. It can be incredibly lonely. You see the gleaming mansion, the fancy cars, the private jets, and the CEO title, and you think, wow, they've got it all figured out. But beneath that polished surface, there's often a deep, quiet ache. Ryan Blake was exactly that person. A man who'd climbed every corporate ladder, amassed immense wealth, yet found himself living in a gilded cage. He had the kind of life most folks only dream of, but something crucial was missing, something money simply couldn't buy. Imagine a stunning painting that, when you get close, you realize has a crack running right through the middle. That was Ryan's world. His days were a whirlwind of high-stakes decisions, board meetings, and calls that stretched across time zones. This relentless pace, while building his empire, also created an invisible wall around him. He poured every ounce of his energy into his work, not just because he was driven, but because it offered a powerful distraction. It kept him from facing the quiet emptiness that lingered in his lavish home, a silence only broken by the occasional, unsettling sounds of his kids. You see, for all his business acumen, Ryan was struggling in the most fundamental arena, his own home. He was a master of grand strategies, but utterly lost when it came to the small, intimate moments that truly make a family. He could close million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, but connecting with his two energetic twins, Max and Leo, felt like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. It was a heartbreaking paradox, having so much and yet feeling so profoundly incomplete, especially when it came to the people who mattered most. That's the unseen burden of this kind of wealth and power, isn't it? The world applauds your achievements, but it rarely sees the cost. Ryan wore his success like a heavy armor, protecting him from outside judgment but also trapping him inside. He believed that if he just worked harder, if he just accumulated more, the void might eventually fill itself. But it didn't. In fact, the more he achieved professionally, the wider the gap seemed to grow between him and the joy of a truly connected life. He was a man caught in a subtle kind of chaos, not the obvious kind you see in a messy room, but an internal one. His heart carried a profound grief, a weight that never truly lifted after the loss of his wife. It was a silent battle, fought every single day, just beneath the surface of his composed demeanor. He believed he had to be strong, to carry the burden alone, not realizing that sometimes strength comes from admitting you need help, from allowing vulnerability. Think about it. How many of us, chasing after our own versions of success, accidentally build walls instead of bridges? We focus so much on accumulating external wealth, a bigger house, a better job, more prestige, that we forget to invest in our internal happiness and connection. Ryan was a prime example. He had built an empire, but his most important kingdom, his family, was teetering on the brink, shrouded in a pervasive quiet that spoke volumes. His days were a blur of numbers and deadlines, leaving little room for laughter or play. The mansion, so grand and impressive from the outside, often felt more like an empty museum to him, echoing with the unspoken grief and the unfulfilled longing for a different kind of life. He tried to fill it with material things, with a revolving door of help, but what it truly needed was something far more profound. It's a powerful lesson. True wealth isn't just about what you accumulate, it's about what you cultivate. It's about the relationships you nurture, the joy you find in the everyday, and the authentic connection you forge with those who matter. Ryan, despite all his impressive achievements, was missing that essential piece, and it was taking a toll on his family, especially his twins. Their boundless energy was a constant reminder of the life he felt he was failing to provide. The children, Max and Leo, were more than just energetic kids. They were a vibrant, sometimes overwhelming, force, desperately seeking a deeper bond. Their chaos wasn't defiance. It was a cry for attention, a signal that their little world needed more than just a nanny to manage them. It needed someone to truly see them, to understand the unspoken pain they carried, and to bring a new kind of energy into their lives. And that's exactly where the real challenge was about to begin. Here's the thing about Max and Leo. They weren't just active kids. Oh no, they were a full-blown force of nature, a whirlwind of boundless energy and mischievous ideas that could turn the most organized mansion into a playful disaster zone in minutes. Their laughter, though infrequent, was often followed by the sound of something breaking or an elaborate prank being executed. For Ryan, their antics were less about childish fun and more about a constant, exhausting battle he felt he was losing. Every single nanny who walked through that grand front door arrived with optimism, a resume full of experience, and a calm demeanor. And every single one of them, without fail, left within a week. Sometimes it was a tearful goodbye, other times a hasty retreat. The twins had a reputation, a kind of unspoken challenge they presented to anyone brave enough to try and manage their chaos. It became a running joke, a testament to their unique, untamable spirit. But for Ryan, it was a source of deep frustration. He'd tried everything. The most expensive agencies, nannies with glowing references, even a few who specialized in high-energy children. But nothing stuck. It was as if Max and Leo had an invisible shield, deflecting every attempt at structure or routine. This constant turnover amplified Ryan's feelings of helplessness. He was a CEO who commanded respect and control in the boardroom, yet at home he felt utterly powerless, watching his domestic life unravel. This impossible challenge wasn't just about finding childcare. It was a symptom of a deeper issue. The twins' relentless energy, their need for constant engagement, was a cry for connection that Ryan, in his own grief and overwhelming work schedule, simply couldn't answer. He was trapped in a cycle. Work consumed him, leaving him exhausted, which made dealing with the boys even harder, pushing him further into work. It was a vicious loop, and he couldn't see a way out. Imagine trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. That's how Ryan felt trying to manage Max and Leo. Their chaos wasn't malicious, but it was certainly overwhelming. They were bright, curious, and incredibly creative, often turning everyday objects into props for their elaborate games. This made them delightful in small doses, but utterly draining for someone who was already running on empty. Their energy was a constant reminder of the joy and vibrancy that felt so absent from Ryan's own life. He'd often come home, expecting a moment of peace after a demanding day, only to be met with another domestic crisis. A spilled paint bucket, a fort built out of expensive furniture, or a remote-controlled car zooming through the mansion at top speed. These weren't just messes. They were symbols of his inability to cope, reinforcing his belief that he was failing as a father. It was a heavy weight, adding to the silent grief he already carried. The truth is, Ryan was overwhelmed, even with all his wealth and resources. It's a common misconception that money solves all problems. But as Ryan discovered, it couldn't buy him peace of mind or a solution to his family's chaos. He could afford the best of everything, but what he truly needed was something far more intangible. A genuine connection with his sons, a way to bridge the emotional distance that had grown between them. He desperately wanted to be a good father, to provide a stable and happy home for his boys, but he simply didn't know how. His own grief had created a barrier, and his demanding career as a CEO left him with little time or emotional bandwidth to figure it out. He was stuck, feeling like he was constantly treading water, barely keeping his head above the waves of domestic turmoil. He was looking for a solution, a quick fix, but the answer wasn't going to come from another high-priced nanny. What Ryan didn't realize was that the solution wouldn't be found in a perfect resume or a strict routine. It would come from an unexpected place, from someone who saw the chaos not as a problem to be fixed, but as a language to be understood. Someone who wasn't afraid to get a little messy, to embrace the unpredictable, and to bring a whole new kind of energy into their lives. And that's exactly what happened when Leila Torres walked in. Here's something truly fascinating about life. Sometimes, the exact solution you need shows up looking absolutely nothing like what you expected. For Ryan Blake, the highly organized CEO of a massive empire, the arrival of Leila Torres was a perfect example. He was used to precision, to meticulous planning, to everything being in its proper place. So when Leila, the new nanny, finally showed up at his pristine mansion, she was, well, a delightful mess. She wasn't the picture of starched professionalism he was accustomed to. She was a whirlwind of vibrant, slightly disheveled energy. Imagine expecting a meticulously crafted Swiss watch and getting a charming, slightly off-kilter cuckoo clock instead. That was Leila. She might have been a little late, her hair might have had a mind of its own, and her clothes might have looked like they'd been in a friendly wrestling match. But there was an undeniable, almost magnetic spark about her. It wasn't just a physical presence. It was an aura of genuine, unbridled spirit that seemed to hum around her. A stark contrast to the quiet, almost sterile atmosphere Ryan had grown used to. From the moment she stepped inside, you could feel a shift, a subtle hum in the air of the grand mansion. Every other nanny had tried to impose order, to fight the chaos of the twins head-on, and they'd inevitably failed. But Leila? She didn't try to conquer the storm. She seemed to dance with it. Her approach was refreshingly authentic, a breath of fresh air that somehow bypassed all of Ryan's carefully constructed defenses and the boys' mischievous barriers. Her arrival wasn't just about a new employee. It was an unexpected breakthrough in itself, a tiny crack in the rigid structure of Ryan's life. It wasn't the solution to all his problems, not yet, but it was the undeniable beginning of one. It was a sign, a little nudge from the universe, hinting that things were about to change in ways he couldn't possibly foresee. Sometimes, the most profound transformations begin with the most unlikely of catalysts, don't they? It's like when you're trying to solve a complex puzzle, and you're searching for a specific, perfectly shaped piece, but the one that actually fits is a bit quirky and doesn't look like it belongs at all. Leila was that piece. She didn't fit Ryan's preconceived notions of what a nanny should be, especially one for a millionaire CEO's twins. She wasn't polished, she wasn't stiff, and she certainly wasn't afraid to be herself, which was, frankly, a bit shocking in Ryan's world. Her authentic nature was her superpower. In a world of carefully curated images and professional facades, Leila was just Leila. She wasn't trying to impress. She was simply being. This raw honesty, this refusal to conform to expectations, was precisely what made her so compelling. It was a stark contrast to the carefully managed life Ryan led, and it was the very thing that would eventually allow her to penetrate the walls he'd built around his heart and his family. She didn't shy away from the chaos the twins brought. Instead, she seemed to meet it with a playful curiosity, a kind of humor that disarmed their usual tactics. Where other nannies saw problems, Leila saw potential for adventure. This wasn't about imposing strict rules. It was about understanding the underlying needs of Max and Leo, seeing past their antics to the vibrant, yearning little souls beneath. This quirky new presence in the mansion was more than just a caregiver. She was a disruptor. She didn't just walk into Ryan's home. She walked into his carefully ordered life and turned it upside down, in the best possible way. She wasn't there to simply manage the twins. She was there, unknowingly, to begin the profound transformation of a CEO who had forgotten how to live, how to laugh, and how to truly connect. And as Ryan stood there, taking in this unexpected new addition to his household, he couldn't help but feel a mix of frustration and a strange, unacknowledged flicker of something else. He was a man who prided himself on his judgment, on his ability to size people up instantly. But with Leila, all his usual metrics seemed to fail. He had no idea just how much this unconventional nanny was about to challenge every single one of his assumptions. Here's the thing about first impressions. They're powerful, aren't they? Especially when you're a CEO like Ryan, used to people being polished and predictable. When Leila, the new nanny, first arrived at his grand mansion, Ryan's mind instantly went to his well-worn mental checklist. She was late, a bit disheveled, and certainly didn't fit the image of the highly competent, impeccably dressed professional he expected for his twins. His initial reaction was pure, unadulterated frustration, a feeling he knew all too well when faced with anything less than perfection. He'd seen countless nannies come and go, each one failing to tame the chaos that Max and Leo brought. So, when Leila stood there, radiating an almost defiant quirky charm, Ryan's internal alarm bells were ringing. He probably thought, "Oh great, another one. This won't last a day." He was quick to judge, to dismiss her based on her appearance and her unconventional timing. It's a common trap, isn't it? We look at the cover and assume we know the whole story, especially when we're under pressure and seeking a quick fix. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. A true breakthrough in perception. Leila's authentic personality quickly began to chip away at Ryan's rigid assumptions. She didn't try to hide her genuine self or put on a show. She was just her. This raw honesty was disarming, especially for someone like Ryan, who was used to people presenting a carefully curated version of themselves. It was a powerful lesson in looking beyond the surface, a reminder that true value often lies beneath the veneer. Think about it like this. You're at a fancy art gallery, expecting a classic masterpiece, and instead, you find a vibrant, modern piece that challenges every notion you had about art. That was Leila. She didn't fit Ryan's perfect mold for a nanny in a millionaire's home. She wasn't stiff or formal. She was warm, a little chaotic herself, and possessed a natural humor that was completely unexpected. This made her less of an employee and more of an intriguing puzzle. This is a profound insight for all of us. How often do we miss out on incredible opportunities or meaningful connections because we're too busy judging based on our preconceived notions? Ryan, in his pursuit of control and order, almost overlooked the very person who held the key to his family's transformation. Leila's arrival wasn't just about childcare. It was about challenging Ryan's worldview, gently pushing him to see beyond the superficial. Her easygoing nature, her genuine smile, and the way she seemed to effortlessly handle the twins' initial antics began to subtly shift Ryan's perspective. It wasn't a grand gesture, but a series of small, authentic moments that started to build a different picture. He might have been the CEO of a vast empire, but Leila was quickly becoming the CEO of his household's emotional landscape, without even trying. It's a powerful testament to the idea that true wealth isn't about what you possess, but who you are. Leila, despite not having Ryan's financial resources, possessed an inner richness, a spirit of joy, resilience, and connection that was far more valuable. She wasn't afraid to be herself, and that fearless authenticity was her greatest asset, one that would soon prove indispensable in helping Ryan overcome his own internal battles. This subtle clash of worlds, Ryan's structured, high-stakes environment versus Leila's free-spirited, human approach, was creating an intriguing dynamic. He was used to people trying to impress him, to conform to his expectations. But Leila simply existed, radiating a kind of happiness that was both contagious and, for Ryan, a little bewildering. He was a man who measured success in numbers, but Leila was about to teach him a different kind of metric. And as Ryan tried to process this unexpected new addition, little did he know that the twins, in their own mischievous way, were about to play a hand that would force him and Leila into a situation where their true characters would be revealed, stripping away all pretenses and opening the door to a truly remarkable relationship. You know, sometimes the universe has a funny way of pushing people together, especially when they really need it. For Ryan, the meticulous CEO, and Leila, the quirky new nanny, that push came in the form of two mischievous little masterminds. Max and Leo, these twins, with their boundless energy and knack for creating delightful chaos, had a secret mission. They'd seen enough romantic comedies, apparently, to know that sometimes all two adults need is a little nudge, or in this case, a locked door. So, in a truly hilarious turn of events, Max and Leo, with their innocent smiles and quick fingers, managed to lock Ryan and Leila inside Ryan's own study. Imagine the scene. A high-powered millionaire trapped in his perfectly organized office, not by a business rival, but by his own kids, and stuck with the very person who had just challenged all his preconceived notions. It was pure, unadulterated chaos. But this time, it was contained within four walls, forcing a confrontation. Ryan's initial reaction was probably a mix of disbelief and exasperation. Here he was, the man who controlled boardrooms, now at the mercy of a door handle and his own children's antics. And to make matters worse, he was stuck with Leila. He likely sighed, running a hand through his hair, still seeing her through the lens of his first impression. The slightly disheveled, unconventional nanny who was turning his world upside down. It was an unexpected twist to his already challenging day. But Leila? She probably just looked at the situation, a slight grin playing on her lips, seeing the humor in it all. She wasn't flustered. She was intrigued. This wasn't a problem to be solved with a stern lecture. It was an invitation to an impromptu adventure. That's the beauty of an authentic spirit, isn't it? They can find the light in any situation, even when you're trapped in a mansion with a grumpy CEO and two giggling twins on the other side of a locked door. This forced proximity, this little bubble of confinement, created an unexpected space for true connection. In Ryan's vast mansion, where everyone usually had their own separate orbits, suddenly there was nowhere to hide. The usual distractions of work, the constant flow of people, the escape into his own thoughts, all were stripped away. It was just Ryan and Leila, face to face, with the playful sounds of the twins outside, a subtle reminder of their shared predicament. It was in this unlikely setting that their relationship began to shift. The initial awkward silence, thick with unspoken judgments, slowly started to dissipate. When you're stuck with someone, you eventually have to talk, right? And as they did, the layers of their public personas began to peel away, revealing glimpses of the real people underneath. Ryan, the guarded CEO, found himself in an unfamiliar territory. Genuine, unscripted conversation. This wasn't a business meeting. There was no agenda, no power dynamic to uphold. It was just two people, forced to interact, and in that interaction, a subtle transformation began. They started to see each other not just as roles, CEO and nanny, but as individuals. It was a small breakthrough, but a significant one, proving that sometimes the most important connections are forged not in grand gestures, but in shared, everyday moments, even if those moments are born of chaos. Leila's easygoing nature and her ability to find humor in the situation were infectious. Ryan, despite himself, might have found a small smile creeping onto his face. This wasn't the kind of professional interaction he was used to, and it was surprisingly refreshing. It was a chance to finally slow down, to breathe, and to actually see the person in front of him, rather than just categorize them. And as they sat there, the sounds of the twins' playful plotting fading into the background, a deeper conversation was about to begin. A conversation that would unveil the true weight of Ryan's silent grief, and perhaps open the door to a healing he never thought possible. Trapped in that study, with the distant sounds of the twins' playful mischief, something profound began to shift. The initial awkwardness, born from their vastly different worlds, slowly gave way to a quiet that was almost inviting. It wasn't the silence of emptiness, but a space where real human connection could finally breathe. Ryan, the guarded CEO, found himself in an unexpected moment of stillness, a rare pause in his relentless pursuit of wealth and control. You see, Ryan had built his life on strength, on never showing weakness. He was a millionaire who commanded respect, a man who solved problems with logic and precision. But in that small, confined space with just Leila, the weight of his meticulously maintained facade began to crack. He wasn't in a boardroom. He was just a man, carrying a burden too heavy to bear alone, a burden that even his vast wealth couldn't alleviate. And then, almost whispered, the truth tumbled out. Ryan revealed the deep, silent grief he carried, the profound loss of his wife. He spoke of how, since her passing, the vibrant joy that once filled their grand mansion had vanished, replaced by a quiet ache. He shared the heartbreaking detail that his twins, Max and Leo, hadn't truly laughed since their mother was gone. It was a raw, unfiltered moment of vulnerability, exposing the very core of his pain. It's fascinating, isn't it, how sometimes the most unlikely person becomes the vessel for our deepest truths. Leila, the quirky, unconventional nanny, wasn't there to judge or offer platitudes. Her authentic presence, her quiet empathy, created a safe harbor for Ryan. He wasn't speaking to an employee. He was speaking to someone who simply saw him, beyond the CEO title and the millionaire status. This unspoken grief had manifested in the chaos of the twins' behavior. Their wild antics weren't just childish mischief. They were a desperate, often unconscious, cry for the lost joy, a way to fill the void left by their mother's absence. Ryan, caught in his own pain, hadn't fully grasped this. He saw the problem, but not its root, not the profound impact of their shared loss on his little family. For so long, Ryan had been trying to navigate this immense challenge of single parenthood, all while maintaining his empire. He felt the immense pressure to be everything for his boys, to be strong, to be unflappable. But the truth was, he was crumbling inside, trying to hold it all together with sheer willpower. This revelation wasn't just about his wife. It was about his own struggle to overcome the overwhelming weight of his responsibilities. This is a powerful lesson for all of us. True strength isn't about hiding your pain or pretending everything's fine. It's about having the courage to be vulnerable, to admit when you're struggling. Think about it. When you share your burdens, you don't become weaker. You create space for connection and healing. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room. The fresh air might be a little jarring at first, but it's essential for breathing. In that moment, the relationship between Ryan and Leila transformed. It moved beyond a professional arrangement and into something far more human, more profound. She wasn't just the nanny hired to manage his twins. She was becoming a confidant, someone who understood the silent battles he faced daily. This shared vulnerability was a subtle yet powerful breakthrough for them both. And as Ryan finished speaking, a heavy silence hung in the air, but it was different now. It was a silence filled with understanding, with empathy. The question now was, what would Leila do with this profound trust? How would her quirky spirit and authentic heart respond to such raw pain? And could she possibly bring that lost joy back into the mansion? Here's where the magic truly happened, where the very essence of Leila's authentic spirit shone brightest. After Ryan's raw confession, a heavy quiet settled in the study, thick with unspoken grief. Most people, faced with such profound sorrow, might offer platitudes or awkward silence. But Leila, she didn't offer sympathy. She offered something far more powerful, a pathway back to joy. She understood that sometimes, the best way to heal a broken heart isn't with words, but with laughter. Imagine trying to coax a sunrise back into a perpetually cloudy sky. That's what it felt like to bring genuine joy back into that mansion. The twins, Max and Leo, had been living in a world muted by loss. Their chaos was a symptom of their unspoken pain, a desperate attempt to feel something. Leila, with her unique blend of humor and deep empathy, saw past the antics and straight into their little aching hearts. She knew that laughter wasn't just a sound. It was a powerful form of healing, a true breakthrough for a family steeped in sadness. She didn't try to force it. Instead, she leaned into her quirky nature, her playful spirit. Maybe she told a silly joke, or made a funny face, or perhaps she just started doing something completely unexpected that broke through the solemn atmosphere. It's like when you're stuck on a problem, and someone comes along and just flips the whole thing upside down, showing you a new angle you never even considered. That's what Leila did for Ryan and his boys. And then it happened. A small giggle, then another, bubbling up from Max or Leo. It wasn't just a polite chuckle. It was a genuine, unrestrained burst of childish joy. That sound, so absent from the mansion for so long, was like a melody, a forgotten song suddenly played. Ryan, the stoic CEO, probably watched in stunned silence, a lump forming in his throat. He tried everything, every resource his wealth could buy, but it was this simple, authentic act that finally broke through. This wasn't just about making kids laugh. It was about unlocking a door that had been sealed shut by grief. It was a testament to the power of human connection, to the idea that sometimes the most profound transformation begins with the simplest of gestures. Leila didn't need a fancy degree or a complex strategy. She just needed her heart and her innate ability to bring light into darkness. That's an inspiring lesson for anyone feeling stuck, isn't it? Think about it. When was the last time you truly laughed? That deep belly laugh that makes your sides ache? For Ryan and his family, it had been ages. Leila's gift was her ability to create an environment where joy felt safe to return. She wasn't just a nanny. She was a catalyst for healing, a beacon of happiness in a home that desperately needed it. This moment was a turning point, a clear sign that something truly special had entered their lives. This kind of breakthrough isn't about grand gestures or massive financial investments. It's about presence, about seeing the underlying need and responding with genuine care. It's about understanding that sometimes the biggest challenge isn't external, but internal, and the solution lies in fostering an environment where emotions can flow freely, where laughter isn't just allowed, but encouraged. This is the kind of wealth that truly matters. Ryan, the man who controlled empires, was now witnessing something far more powerful than any business deal: the return of laughter to his children's lives. It was a profound moment, a realization that all his wealth and power couldn't achieve what this quirky nanny had done with a simple act of humor and empathy. He was beginning to see the world and his family through a different lens, one that valued joy above all else. And as the echoes of the twins' laughter filled the grand halls of the mansion, a new kind of peace began to settle. It wasn't the quiet of sadness, but the serene calm that comes after a storm, promising brighter days ahead. The question now was, how would this newfound joy translate into the daily rhythms of their lives? And what other unexpected changes would Leila bring? Here's a powerful truth. Sometimes, the most profound transformation isn't marked by grand fireworks or dramatic pronouncements, but by the quiet, subtle shifts in daily life. For Ryan, the CEO who lived by the clock, the biggest sign of change in his mansion came not from a business deal, but from the stillness of the night. After Leila, the quirky nanny, brought laughter back into their lives, something truly remarkable happened. The twins, Max and Leo, started sleeping through the night. Think about the sheer relief of that. For months, probably years, Ryan's nights had been punctuated by restless cries, nightmares, or the sounds of his boys' chaos spilling into the late hours. Sleep, for him, had become a luxury, a fragmented dream. But now, with Leila's gentle, authentic influence, a new kind of peace settled over the house. The quiet wasn't the heavy silence of grief anymore. It was the serene calm of a household finally finding its rhythm, a true breakthrough in their nightly routine. This wasn't just about getting more sleep, though that was certainly a welcome change for Ryan. It was about a deeper sense of security and happiness that Leila had instilled in the boys. Her presence brought a sense of stability, a feeling of being truly seen and cared for, which allowed their little minds to finally rest. It's like when you finally find the right key for a lock that's been jammed for ages. Suddenly, everything just clicks into place, effortlessly. Ryan, the man who meticulously analyzed market trends and financial reports, now found himself observing a different kind of data, the peaceful slumber of his sons. He'd walk past their rooms, peeking in, almost disbelieving the quiet. This seemingly small detail was a monumental shift, a tangible sign of the positive impact Leila was having on his family. It was an unexpected gift, a testament to her unique ability to bring joy and comfort where it was most needed. This quiet revolution in the mansion extended beyond just the twins' sleep, permeated the very atmosphere of the home. The frantic energy that once defined their days began to soften. There was still play, still humor, but it was balanced with moments of calm, of gentle connection. It was as if Leila had tuned the entire house to a different, more harmonious frequency, a stark contrast to the previous constant state of chaos. For Ryan, this newfound peace was an inspiring revelation. He had poured all his wealth and energy into external success, believing it would bring him inner peace. Yet, it was the simple human touch of an authentic nanny that was truly transforming his life, one quiet night at a time. He was beginning to understand that real connection and happiness were far more valuable than any corporate achievement. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most significant changes in our lives aren't loud or dramatic. They're subtle, almost imperceptible at first, like the steady growth of a plant. But over time, these small shifts accumulate, leading to a profound transformation. Ryan was witnessing his family heal, his boys thriving, and a new sense of hope blossoming within the walls of his grand mansion. He started to notice other things too. The boys' smiles were more genuine, their laughter more frequent, and their eyes held a new sparkle. This wasn't just a temporary fix. It felt like a genuine, lasting change. The challenge of their previous behavior was slowly being replaced by a blossoming sense of joy and security, all thanks to Leila's patient, loving guidance. And as Ryan reflected on these peaceful nights, a new thought began to surface. This unexpected breakthrough in his home life was wonderful, but the world outside his mansion still held its own set of pressures, particularly in the form of certain family members who had very strong opinions about how things should be. You know how it is when things finally start to feel good, when you find a rhythm and some real happiness. That's usually when an unexpected challenge pops up, right? For Ryan, just as the mansion was settling into a new, peaceful routine thanks to Leila, a formidable figure arrived. Lady Margaret, his sophisticated mother-in-law. She was elegance personified, a woman of impeccable taste and even more impeccable opinions, especially when it came to how things should be run in a millionaire household. Lady Margaret was the kind of person who could size you up in a single glance, and her glance at Leila, the quirky new nanny, was definitely one of disapproval. She embodied the external pressures that often come with immense wealth and status, the unspoken rules, the expectations of perfection, the judgment of anything that deviates from the norm. For her, Leila's unconventional style and relaxed approach were simply not up to par for a CEO's family. Her arrival brought a subtle tension back into the mansion, a stark contrast to the joy and ease Leila had cultivated. Lady Margaret represented the old guard, the belief that order and appearance were paramount, even if it meant sacrificing genuine connection or authentic expression. She saw Leila's methods as chaotic, rather than the unique breakthrough they truly were for the twins and for Ryan. Imagine a perfectly manicured garden suddenly having a wild, beautiful wildflower bloom in the middle of it. Lady Margaret saw the wildflower as a weed, something that needed to be removed or, at the very least, pruned into submission. She couldn't comprehend how someone so seemingly disheveled could bring such profound transformation and happiness to her grandchildren and son-in-law. Her disapproval was palpable, a silent judgment hanging in the air. This situation highlights a common struggle, the clash between what looks right on the outside and what truly brings joy and well-being on the inside. Ryan, having lived under similar pressures his whole life, felt caught in the middle. He was starting to see Leila's value, but the ingrained expectations of his social circle, personified by Lady Margaret, were hard to shake. It was a new kind of challenge, a test of his newfound perspective. Lady Margaret's presence was a reminder that even when you're overcoming grief and finding happiness, the world outside still has its opinions. She likely saw Leila as a threat to the established order, a disruptive force in a home that, from her perspective, needed strict discipline, not playful humor. It was a classic old money versus new approach scenario, playing out in the grand halls of the mansion. Her subtle critiques, her pointed glances, and her perfectly polite but unmistakably critical comments created an uncomfortable atmosphere. It was a different kind of chaos than the twins brought. This was a social chaos, a battle of wills and worldviews. Leila, with her authentic spirit, was about to face a formidable opponent who believed that her very presence was an affront to the Blake family's reputation and wealth. This wasn't just about a mother-in-law visiting. It was about the ingrained societal pressures that can dictate how we live, even when we're millionaires. It was a test for Leila, too. Could her quirky charm and genuine heart withstand the scrutiny of someone so steeped in tradition and judgment? The stage was set for an unexpected confrontation, one that would reveal even more about Leila's true character. And as Lady Margaret surveyed the scene, her eyes narrowing slightly at Leila's relaxed demeanor, little did she know that a rather furry, four-legged creature was about to make a dramatic entrance, forcing an unexpected connection that would challenge all her preconceived notions. You know how sometimes, In the middle of a tense situation, something completely absurd happens that just throws everyone off balance? That's exactly what went down in Ryan's grand mansion as Lady Margaret, with her air of refined disapproval, was silently scrutinizing Leila. The atmosphere was already thick with unspoken judgment, a polite but palpable tension that felt like it could snap at any moment. Lady Margaret's perfectly coiffed head was probably filled with thoughts about Leila's unconventional methods, completely missing the joy and transformation she'd brought. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a furry, four-legged missile streaked through the elegant living room. It was the Blake family cat, and for reasons known only to itself, perhaps a rogue toy from the twins, or just a bad case of the zoom eyes, it decided to make a truly dramatic entrance. This wasn't a gentle stroll. It was a full-on feline frenzy, a tiny burst of pure, unadulterated chaos that shattered the delicate peace and Lady Margaret's composure in one swift move. Before anyone could even react, the frantic furball, in its desperate escape, made a spectacular leap. And where did it land? Right on Lady Margaret's back. Imagine the scene. The impeccably dressed, highly poised matriarch suddenly flailing, a startled cat clinging for dear life. It was pandemonium, a moment of pure, unexpected physical comedy that instantly turned the formal setting into a chaotic, unforgettable spectacle. In that split second, while everyone else, including Ryan the unflappable CEO, probably froze in shock or gasped in alarm, one person reacted instinctively. It wasn't the other staff or even Ryan himself. It was Leila, the quirky nanny. Her response was immediate and remarkably calm, a stark contrast to the unfolding drama. She didn't hesitate, didn't stop to think. She simply acted, moving towards the commotion with a quiet purpose. With a gentle but firm hand, Leila carefully dislodged the startled cat from Lady Margaret's back. There was no panic in her movements, no harshness in her touch. She handled the situation with an innate compassion, ensuring both the distressed animal and the flustered Lady Margaret were safe. It was an authentic display of her character, a testament to her ability to remain composed and caring even when faced with sudden, bewildering challenge. This wasn't just about removing a cat. It was about Leila's true nature shining through. In a moment of genuine crisis, when most would prioritize self-preservation or simply stand by, she stepped up. Her actions spoke volumes, revealing a depth of kindness and a practical, grounded spirit that went far beyond her unconventional appearance or her playful humor. It was a powerful, silent argument against Lady Margaret's earlier judgments. For Lady Margaret, this was an utterly humiliating experience, but also, perhaps, an unexpected moment of vulnerability. To be helped by the very person she had silently dismissed was a bitter pill to swallow, yet it was undeniably effective. Leila's calm competence, her genuine concern, proved her worth in a way no resume or formal attire ever could. It was a subtle, yet undeniable breakthrough in perception. This little domestic crisis, born of feline chaos, became a surprising turning point. It wasn't just a funny anecdote. It was a moment that stripped away pretenses and revealed the true heart of the nanny. It showed Ryan, and perhaps even Lady Margaret, that Leila possessed a kind of wealth that couldn't be measured in dollars, a richness of spirit, empathy, and an inspiring ability to handle life's curveballs with grace. And as the cat scurried away, and Lady Margaret, still a bit ruffled, tried to regain her composure, a new seed of doubt was planted in her mind about Leila. This incident, as chaotic as it was, had subtly paved the way for a different kind of connection, one that would continue to challenge the rigid boundaries of the family's expectations. Here's a vital truth many successful people, especially millionaires like Ryan, often miss. True connection isn't always smooth sailing. Sometimes, it demands uncomfortable conversations, facing hard truths that sting a little. After the unexpected cat incident, a fragile shift had begun in the mansion, a tiny crack in Lady Margaret's disapproval. But the real breakthrough in Ryan and Leila's relationship wasn't going to happen in a formal setting. It happened during a simple picnic in the park, surrounded by the playful chaos of the twins. It was a beautiful day, the kind that usually brings out the best in people. Max and Leo were probably off exploring, their boundless energy a stark contrast to the serious conversation brewing between Ryan and Leila. She saw him, the powerful CEO, trying his best but still holding back, still hiding behind his work. And in her authentic, no-nonsense way, Leila knew it was time for a candid talk, a challenge he desperately needed, even if he didn't realize it. She didn't mince words. She confronted him, gently but firmly, about his absence, about how his dedication to wealth and his empire was inadvertently costing him precious moments with his sons. It wasn't an accusation. It was an observation, a heartfelt plea from someone who genuinely cared about the family's happiness. Imagine someone looking you straight in the eye and saying, "You're building an amazing castle, but you're forgetting to live in it." That was the essence of her message. Ryan, the man used to giving orders, suddenly found himself on the receiving end of some tough love. His initial reaction might have been defensiveness, a natural human response when our blind spots are exposed. He probably thought, "Who is this nanny to tell me how to parent?" But Leila wasn't speaking from a position of judgment. She was speaking from a place of deep empathy, having seen the grief and longing in the twins' eyes. This confrontation wasn't about winning an argument. It was about opening Ryan's eyes to a different kind of wealth, the richness of presence, of being fully there for his children. It was a mirror held up to his life, showing him the true cost of his relentless work ethic. This is a common challenge for many driven individuals. The struggle to balance ambition with the needs of their personal lives, often without realizing the depth of the imbalance. Leila's humor and warmth were still there, but in this moment, they were tempered with a serious resolve. She wasn't just managing the twins. She was nurturing the entire family, and that meant addressing the root cause of their lingering sadness. She understood that for true joy to flourish in the mansion, Ryan had to step fully into his role as a father, not just a provider. It's like when you're driving a car with a flat tire and someone points it out. It might be annoying to stop and fix it, but ignoring it will only lead to a bigger problem down the road. Leila was pointing out Ryan's flat tire, his emotional distance from his boys. This was an inspiring act of courage on her part, to speak truth to power, especially to a millionaire CEO who was used to being obeyed. This conversation in the park was a pivotal moment, a necessary transformation for Ryan. It forced him to look inward, to confront the uncomfortable reality of his parenting style, and to acknowledge the emotional void he was trying to fill with work. It was a breakthrough that wasn't about a business deal, but about the profound connection within his own family. And as the echoes of their frank discussion faded, leaving a new, raw honesty in the air, Ryan was left with a choice. Would he retreat back into his work, or would he finally acknowledge the truth of his struggle and open himself up to the overcoming of his deepest fears? Here's where Ryan, the powerful CEO, finally let his guard down. After Leila's direct but compassionate words in the park, something shifted deep inside him. He'd spent years building an impenetrable fortress around his emotions, believing that showing weakness was a fatal flaw, especially for a millionaire at the helm of an empire. But in that moment, stripped of his corporate armor, he admitted the raw, painful truth. He didn't know how to be a single parent. Imagine carrying a boulder on your shoulders, day in and day out, pretending it's a feather. That was Ryan's reality. He confessed that he'd been hiding in his work, using the relentless pursuit of wealth and corporate success as a shield, a way to numb the profound grief he felt after losing his wife. It wasn't about avoiding his responsibilities. It was about not knowing how to navigate them while battling his own silent sorrow. This vulnerability was a seismic breakthrough for him. This isn't just Ryan's story. It's a universal human experience. How often do we, when faced with overwhelming challenge or deep pain, retreat into what feels safe and familiar, even if it's not truly serving us? We might bury ourselves in work, hobbies, or even distractions, just to avoid confronting the raw emotions that demand our attention. Ryan, with all his resources, was doing the same thing, proving that money doesn't make you immune to human struggles. His admission was a crucial step in his personal transformation. It was the moment he stopped fighting the current and allowed himself to be seen, truly seen, by another person. Leila, the quirky nanny who had brought joy and a touch of chaos into his perfectly ordered mansion, listened without judgment. Her authentic presence created a safe space for him to finally articulate the immense weight he'd been carrying alone. Think about it. 4 years, Ryan had been the picture of the self-made man, the one with all the answers. But now he was admitting he was lost. This kind of honesty, this willingness to say, "I don't know," is incredibly inspiring. It shows that true strength isn't about having all the answers, but about having the courage to ask for help, to admit your limitations, and to open yourself up to new possibilities. This moment of shared vulnerability deepened their relationship in an unexpected way. It moved beyond the professional boundaries of CEO and nanny and into a realm of genuine human connection. Leila wasn't just there to manage the twins. She was becoming a pillar of support for Ryan, someone who could see past his public persona to the struggling man beneath. This was a profound shift, vital for the entire family's healing. It's a powerful lesson in empathy, too. When someone opens up to you, it's not about finding solutions right away. Sometimes it's just about listening, about holding space for their pain. Leila understood this instinctively. She didn't offer quick fixes. She offered presence, a quiet understanding that allowed Ryan to finally breathe, to acknowledge his grief and the immense challenge of single parenthood without feeling like a failure. This confession was the real turning point for Ryan. It was the moment he began to truly overcome his internal battles, to shed the heavy armor of perfection. He was starting to realize that his greatest wealth wasn't in his bank account or his company's stock, but in the happiness and connection he could cultivate within his own family. He was learning that being a good father meant being present, being human, and sometimes being messy. And as Ryan finished speaking, a new kind of quiet settled between them. Not the silence of grief, but the calm that comes after a storm. The air was clearer, lighter. The question now was, how would this newfound honesty translate into action? How would Leila, with her humor and empathy, help him bridge the gap between his work life and the joy he longed for with his boys? Here's a beautiful truth. Sometimes, the most powerful messages aren't spoken in grand speeches or important meetings, but in the simplest, most heartfelt ways. After Ryan's raw confession, a new, tender space opened up in their relationship. He'd admitted his struggles, his deep grief, and his longing for connection with his twins. And Leila, the quirky nanny with an authentic heart, responded not with advice, but with something far more profound, a song. Imagine Ryan, the powerful CEO, sitting in his quiet mansion, feeling a mix of relief and vulnerability after his confession. Then his phone buzzes. It's a message from Leila. He opens it, perhaps expecting a text, but instead, he hears her voice. She's singing a simple, heartfelt tune, a lullaby perhaps, or a playful melody that she'd shared with the boys. It was an unexpected gesture, a gentle whisper of joy in a life that had been so devoid of it. This wasn't just any song. It was a bridge. It spanned the distance between Ryan's guarded world and Leila's open heart, between his immense wealth and her invaluable emotional richness. It was a melody that carried empathy, understanding, and a promise of comfort. For a man who communicated in facts and figures, this pure, unadulterated expression of emotion was a breakthrough unlike any he'd experienced before. Think about the impact of a simple song. It's a primal form of connection, reaching parts of us that words sometimes can't touch. Leila understood this instinctively. Her song wasn't about solving Ryan's problems. It was about acknowledging his pain and offering a moment of solace, a reminder that he wasn't alone in his challenge to overcome his past and embrace his family. This act of pure, authentic kindness sparked something new in Ryan. It wasn't just a fleeting moment of happiness. It was a deeper realization. He saw that Leila wasn't just managing the chaos of his twins. She was nurturing his entire family's emotional landscape. She was showing him a different kind of love, one that wasn't about grand gestures, but about genuine care and presence. It's like when you've been walking through a long, dark tunnel, and suddenly you see a tiny pinprick of light. That song was Ryan's pinprick. It was an inspiring reminder that even in the midst of grief and overwhelming responsibility, joy and connection are always possible. It was a gentle invitation to step out of his isolation and into a warmer, more vibrant world. This wasn't a professional move from a nanny. It was a human one. It was Leila, being utterly herself, using her unique gift to offer comfort. This moment solidified the burgeoning relationship between them, moving it into a space of mutual trust and affection. Ryan felt a warmth he hadn't experienced in years, a feeling of being truly seen and cared for, not just as a CEO, but as a man. The song resonated not just with Ryan, but with the twins too, who likely recognized the tune or the voice that had brought so much laughter back into their lives. It was a shared moment, a subtle shift that pulled the three of them closer, creating a stronger bond within their little family. This was the kind of wealth that truly mattered, far beyond any material possessions. And as the last notes of Leila's song faded, a new kind of hope began to bloom in Ryan's heart. He knew, deep down, that this unexpected connection was something truly special, something worth nurturing. The question now was, how would this newfound emotional openness translate into their daily lives? And what grand gesture might it inspire next, especially from his beloved boys? Here's where the mansion truly transformed from a house into a home, brimming with an authentic kind of joy. Leila, with her signature quirky spirit, cooked up an idea. A talent show for the twins, Max and Leo. You could practically see the sparks of excitement in their eyes. For Ryan, the CEO, it was another unexpected twist in his meticulously ordered life, but he'd learned by now to trust Leila's instincts. This wasn't just about putting on a show. It was about fostering connection and allowing their little personalities to shine, turning their usual chaos into something wonderfully creative. The big night arrived, and the living room, usually a place for formal gatherings, was now a makeshift stage. Max and Leo, usually a whirlwind of energy, stood there, a little nervous, but beaming. And then they started to sing. It wasn't some generic kid's song. It was a melody they'd crafted themselves, a simple, heartfelt tune about Leila being their heart mom. Imagine the profound impact of hearing your own children, who'd been so shrouded in grief, express such pure love and happiness for someone who had brought so much light into their lives. Ryan, the powerful millionaire CEO who could face down any boardroom challenge without flinching, found himself utterly undone. His perfectly composed facade crumbled. Tears welled up in his eyes, unbidden, a raw display of vulnerability that spoke volumes. This wasn't just a performance. It was a profound declaration, a testament to the incredible transformation Leila had brought. In that moment, the last vestiges of his silent grief seemed to melt away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of gratitude and a deep, aching joy. He didn't hesitate. Without a second thought, Ryan stepped forward, pulling both Max and Leo into a tight embrace. And then, in a gesture that spoke volumes, he reached out and drew Leila, the nanny who had changed everything, into the hug too. It was a powerful, unspoken acknowledgement, a physical manifestation of their new reality. This wasn't just a CEO and his kids. It was a family, truly united, forming a bond that felt unbreakable, a true breakthrough in every sense of the word. This moment was about more than just a hug. It was about acceptance, about belonging. For Leila, who had always embraced her quirky individuality, being pulled into that embrace by Ryan and the twins was an invaluable gift. It was a public declaration of her place, not just as an employee, but as an integral part of their lives. The boys' song, their innocent declaration of love, solidified her position as more than just a caregiver. She was now a cherished member of their blossoming family. It's an inspiring reminder that real wealth isn't measured in bank accounts or property deeds. It's found in moments like these. The raw emotion, the genuine connection, the feeling of being truly seen and loved. Ryan, for all his material possessions, was finally experiencing a richness that far surpassed any financial gain. This was the kind of happiness that money simply couldn't buy, a profound breakthrough in his understanding of what truly matters in life. This talent show wasn't just a cute event. It was the culmination of months of subtle, yet powerful, transformation. The mansion, once a place of quiet grief and controlled chaos, now echoed with genuine laughter and the warmth of love. Leila's authentic approach, her unwavering belief in the power of humor and empathy, had slowly but surely helped Ryan and his boys overcome their past and embrace a vibrant, hopeful future. The twins, Max and Leo, were, in their own innocent way, the ultimate matchmakers and catalysts for this breakthrough. Their desire for a complete family, their innate understanding of the love that was blossoming, led them to create this beautiful moment. They saw the connection between Ryan and Leila long before the adults fully acknowledged it, and their performance was their heartfelt plea for happiness to finally settle in their home. And as the applause died down, and the family stood there, wrapped in that powerful embrace, a new chapter was clearly beginning. The talent show had laid the emotional groundwork, preparing everyone for the next, even more unexpected step in their journey together. The question now was, what grand gesture would follow this beautiful display of love? And how would Ryan finally seal the deal on this incredible, authentic relationship? Here's the thing about true love. It often blooms in the most unexpected places, and sometimes it needs a little nudge from the smallest, most authentic hearts. After the emotional breakthrough of the talent show, where the twins sang their hearts out, something truly magical began to unfold in Ryan's grand mansion. Max and Leo, in their innocent wisdom, decided it was time to take matters into their own hands. They'd seen the love blossoming between their dad, the CEO, and Leila, the quirky nanny, and they knew exactly what was missing. So, with the kind of playful chaos only little kids can orchestrate, they planned the ultimate surprise. A wedding. Imagine the scene. Two little boys, armed with toilet paper crowns and boundless joy, meticulously setting up a makeshift ceremony in the mansion. It was adorable, hilarious, and utterly heartfelt. For Ryan and Leila, who were still navigating the delicate dance of their evolving relationship, it was a moment that stripped away all pretense, forcing them to confront the undeniable truth of their feelings. This wasn't some grand, orchestrated event. It was raw, authentic, and filled with the pure happiness only children can inspire. As Max and Leo, their tiny faces serious with purpose, officiated their parents' wedding, Ryan and Leila found themselves caught in a whirlwind of emotion. The twins were, in their own way, holding up a mirror, reflecting the deep connection and love that had grown between the two adults, a love that had helped them both overcome so much grief. In that moment, surrounded by the innocent humor of the children, the words just came. Ryan, the man who'd built an empire of wealth and controlled every aspect of his life, found himself confessing his feelings for Leila, openly and without reservation. And Leila, the woman who had brought so much transformation and light into his life, responded in kind. It was a beautiful, inspiring exchange, a culmination of all the small moments that had led them to this profound realization. This twin wedding wasn't just a cute anecdote. It was the catalyst for the ultimate breakthrough. It showed Ryan that the greatest wealth he could ever possess wasn't in his bank account, but in the love and happiness of his family. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes the most important decisions in life aren't made in boardrooms, but in the quiet, heartfelt moments that truly define our existence. And because this was Ryan Blake, the CEO who loved grand gestures, he knew he had to make it official. With the help of his little wingmen, Max and Leo, he planned a real proposal, a beautiful, heartfelt moment in the backyard of their mansion. It was a scene straight out of a dream, a testament to how far they had all come, how much grief they had overcome, and how much joy they had found together. Leila, of course, said yes. How could she not? This wasn't just a proposal. It was the promise of a complete family, a future filled with laughter, love, and the kind of happiness that felt both unexpected and utterly perfect. Her quirky spirit had found its home, not just in a grand house, but in the hearts of Ryan and his twins. It was the ultimate connection, a bond forged through shared experiences and genuine affection. The celebration that followed was exactly what you'd expect from this newly formed family. Chaotic, loud, and bursting with love. It was a beautiful mess, a testament to the fact that perfection isn't about order, but about embracing the beautiful imperfections of life. This wasn't just a marriage. It was the sealing of a bond, the creation of a unit that was stronger, happier, and more authentic than Ryan had ever dared to imagine. And so, the millionaire CEO, the twins, and the unexpected nanny found their happily ever after, proving that the most valuable wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the joy of a truly connected family. This was their ultimate breakthrough, a story that reminds us all that love truly does find a home, even in the most unlikely of places. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. So, what can we learn from Ryan Blake's incredible journey? His transformation from a lonely millionaire CEO to a loving husband and father is a powerful and inspiring reminder for all of us. It shows that even when you have immense wealth, the greatest achievements often come from the most unexpected places. From letting go of rigid control, embracing your authentic self, and allowing love and joy to truly transform your life. It's about overcoming the ghosts of the past and boldly building a future where family and genuine connections are the true, irreplaceable treasures.